The United States Navy operates the largest and most lethal carrier force on Earth. The core of American maritime supremacy relies on a fleet of 11 nuclear-powered supercarriers. Maintaining this force presents an immense logistical, industrial, and financial challenge. In 2026, the fleet is at a critical point. US leadership demand constant forward presence to enforce maritime blockades in the Middle East, deter expansion in the Indo-Pacific, and maintain security in the Caribbean. The naval industrial base struggles to meet these demands. Severe bottlenecks at Newport News shipbuilding, the sole facility capable of constructing and refueling nuclear carriers, trap midlife hulls in dry dock and delay new platforms. The Navy faces a mathematical carrier crunch, retiring older ships faster than shipyards can replace them. The fleet must project overwhelming power while simultaneously managing a transition to a new generation of warships that have their own issues to iron out. Before comparing the ships themselves, it's important to look at where the carrier's real combat power comes from, its air wing. In 2026, a typical US Navy carrier air wing fields around 75 to 90 aircraft across 9 squadrons and detachments. Known as the air wing of the future, it combines the stealth and sensor capabilities of the F-35C Lightning II with the payload and endurance of the EA-18G or F Super Hornet. 4 strike fighter squadrons provide around 40 to 44 combat aircraft. The F-35C acts as the fleet's forward sensor, gathering intelligence and tracking targets deep inside contested airspace. The Super Hornet complements it by carrying large weapon loads and delivering the bulk of the air wing's firepower. Supporting them are 5 to 7 EA-18G Growlers, which conduct electronic warfare and suppress enemy air defences. Supporting the carrier group are 4 to 5 E-2D advanced Hawkeyes, whose powerful radar provides long-range surveillance and airborne command and control. 2 Seahawk helicopter squadrons, operating around 15 to 20 MH-60R and MH-60S helicopters, provide anti-submarine warfare, anti-surface warfare, search and rescue, and logistical support, extending the carrier group's defensive reach far beyond the horizon. Completing the air wing is a small logistics detachment operating CMV-22B Osprey aircraft, which transport personnel, spare parts, and critical equipment between ships and shore bases. The result is a highly integrated air combat system capable of conducting a wide range of operations simultaneously across thousands of miles of ocean. The Nimitz Class remains the backbone of the US carrier force. 10 ships are currently in service, each displacing more than 100,000 tons at full load. They were designed during the 1960s and commissioned between 1975 and 2009. 2 AW4 nuclear reactors generate about 260,000 shaft horsepower, driving the ships beyond 30 knots while providing effectively unlimited range. In practice, the carriers only require replenishment of aviation fuel, munitions, and supplies. For self-defense, Nimitz-class carriers employ a combination of evolved Sea Sparrow missiles, rolling airframe missiles, and Falnex close-in weapon systems, although the exact fit varies between ships and modernization standards. The lead ship of the class operates as the oldest active aircraft carrier in the world. As of late May 2026, Nimitz operates under Southern Command, acting as flagship for the Southern Seas 2026 deployment. She spent the last several months circumnavigating South America, conducting regional security drills. Following a scheduled port call in Kingston, Jamaica from the 1st to the 5th of June, she'll arrive at her new home port in Norfolk. While this was originally intended to be her final deployment, the Navy recently announced a change. To maintain fleet numbers amid severe carrier shortages and a delay to her replacement, her service life has been officially extended. Instead of immediately beginning complex nuclear defueling process, Nimitz will remain in active service until at least 2027. However, this extension is heavily restricted by her aging reactors. Running on nearly depleted fuel from a refit over 25 years ago, the ship lacks the nuclear reserves to sustain another high-tempo combat deployment. Following her combat deployment to the Red Sea in 2024, USS Dwight D. Eisenhower returned to Norfolk for a planned incremental availability phase. Shipyard workers finished the refit ahead of schedule in April 2026. Driven by the global carrier shortage, the Navy surged Eisenhower immediately back into service. As of early June 2026, Eisenhower is operating off the East Coast, rebuilding readiness for future deployments. Her rapid return to service highlights the pressure currently facing the fleet, struggling to balance global commitments with limited carrier availability. Homeported in San Diego, USS Carl Vinson anchors the Pacific Fleet. Fully integrated with F-35C and CMV-22B Osprey, she completed a highly visible Indo-Pacific deployment over the last year, including a visit to Pearl Harbor. Returning to San Diego in late 2025, she is currently undergoing a scheduled pierside maintenance period. She remains combat ready, capable of being rapidly deployed if required. Operating out of San Diego, USS Theodore Roosevelt recently deployed to the West Pacific. Departing in early May 2026 with Carrier Air Wing 11, she currently operates in the Philippine Sea. Her strike group recently executed a dual carrier operation alongside the forward-deployed USS George Washington, and participated in Exercise Valiant Shield, projecting deterrence against regional adversaries, i.e. China. USS Abraham Lincoln illustrates how quickly global events can shape and change naval deployments. Sent to the Indo-Pacific, the carrier was abruptly redirected to the Middle East in January 2026 as tensions with Iran escalated. Months later, she is still operating in the Arabian Sea, highlighting the extraordinary flexibility demanded of America's carrier fleet. USS George Washington serves as the United States Navy's sole forward-deployed aircraft carrier, i.e. based outside the United States. Homeported in Yokosuka, Japan, she officially relieved USS Ronald Reagan in July 2024 during a cross-deck hull swap in San Diego, subsequently arriving in her new Japanese home port in November 2024. Her embarked air wing features the latest F-35C. Following an import availability phase, she departed Japan on the 23rd of May 2026 to conduct routine patrols amid heightened Chinese naval activity in the Western Pacific. USS John C. Stennis sits trapped at the center of the Navy's shipyard crisis. Entering her midlife refueling and complex overhaul at Newport News in 2021, severe complications derail the schedule. Systemic workforce shortages and the discovery of heavy degradation in the main steam turbine forced the Navy to inject an additional $483 million into the project. Redelivery is delayed until at least October 2026, pushing her full fleet deployability into 2027. Homeported on the East Coast, USS Harry S. Truman completed an ammunition offload following an 8-month deployment. Her next chapter will have major implications for carrier availability. The ship is scheduled to begin a 4-year refueling and complex overhaul in June 2026, removing another frontline supercarrier from operational service. With USS John C. Stennis already undergoing an extended maintenance period, the overlap will place additional pressure on a fleet already balancing global commitments with lengthy maintenance requirements. After nearly a decade serving as the forward-deployed carrier in Japan, USS Ronald Reagan returned to the United States in 2024. In March 2025, she entered dry dock number 6 at the Puget Sound Naval Shipyard in Bremerton. She is currently undergoing planned maintenance availability under an $89 million contract. The refit is expected to conclude in August 2026. USS George H.W. Bush departed Norfolk in March 2026 for a scheduled deployment. However, due to the war in the region, she was diverted to the Gulf, entering the Arabian Sea in May 2026. She operates with USS Abraham Lincoln in the Middle East, establishing a multi-carrier force that can react to any breakdown in the peace process. The Ford class represents the future of American naval aviation. Designed to replace the Nimitz class for 1-for-1, these ships introduce sweeping changes in technology. 2 A-1B nuclear reactors provide a 25% increase in overall energy, and the ship produces nearly 3 times the electrical generation of legacy ships. This massive electrical grid powers the Electromagnetic Aircraft Launch System, EMALS, and the Advanced Arresting Gear. These systems replace traditional steam catapults and hydraulic wires. EMALS applies smooth, precise controlled acceleration to launch an aircraft. This reduces structural stress on the airframes and allows the carrier to launch a wide variety of aircraft. The lead ship of the class returned to Norfolk on the 16th of May 2026, concluding an extraordinary combat deployment. Departing in June 2025, she spent a staggering 326 days at sea. This shatters recent records, marking the longest continuous US carrier deployment since the Vietnam War. She operated across the Mediterranean, the Caribbean, and executed combat operations in the Red Sea. Her systems executed over 11,500 electromagnetic launches. While testers still flag long-term reliability metrics, the deployment proves the Ford class can sustain massive real-world combat flight operations. However, the grueling endurance test exposed severe infrastructure and habitability flaws, most notably crippling plumbing breakdowns and a major fire aboard, highlighting critical internal vulnerabilities that the Navy must urgently address. The second Ford class carrier, pre-commissioning unit John F. Kennedy, nears completion but faces persistent delays. She successfully completed builder's sea trials in February 2026, proving her baseline hull operations in the Atlantic. The Navy shifted to a single-phase delivery strategy to incorporate critical F-35C structural modifications prior to delivery. This maximizes ultimate combat capability, but extends the construction timeline. Defense budget documents confirm her delivery is delayed until March 2027 to support the final certification of her advanced weapon elevators. Construction of the third and fourth hulls illustrates the fragility of the naval industrial base. The keel for Enterprise was laid in 2022, but late delivery of critical materials severely hindered assembly. Her projected delivery date has slipped to March 2031. These delays cause a bottleneck. Because Enterprise currently occupies the only dry dock footprint accessible by heavy lift cranes at Newport News, the construction of Doris Miller cannot proceed at scale. The delivery of Doris Miller is now pushed to February 2034, resulting in a 15-year life cycle from contract award to fleet entry. Global power projection comes at a staggering cost. A single Ford-class supercarrier costs around £10.5 billion to build, and operating the ship, its air wing, and more than 4,500 personnel can approach £1 billion per year. The most useful comparison is the Royal Navy's Queen Elizabeth class. At roughly £4 billion per ship, the British carriers cost less than half as much to build. Annual operating costs are also significantly lower, estimated at around £350 to £400 million for the carrier operating with a full F-35B air group. The numbers reveal a clear trade-off. A Ford-class carrier carries roughly twice as many strike aircraft and support a much larger air wing and delivers the capabilities that the Royal Navy currently cannot generate from a carrier deck. These include catapult launched aircraft, fixed-wing airborne early warning platforms, and dedicated electronic attack squadrons. In simple terms, America pays a substantial premium for greater capacity, greater reach, and greater flexibility. Availability is where the comparison becomes more interesting. The US Navy's 11-carrier fleet must accommodate the demands for nuclear propulsion and lengthy maintenance cycles. Typically, one carrier is undergoing a multi-year refueling overhaul, while another is in a major maintenance cycle. Around 3 carriers are normally deployed worldwide, with the remainder preparing for deployment, training, or held in reserve ready to deploy. The Royal Navy follows a different approach. With only 2 carriers, the goal is usually to keep one at high readiness, while the other undergoes maintenance or regeneration. The absence of a multi-year nuclear refueling overhaul creates a simpler force generation cycle. Yet there are trade-offs. Budget constraints have limited F-35B procurement, meaning the carriers rarely deploy with their theoretical maximum air group. The Royal Navy also lacks dedicated fixed-wing airborne early warning platforms. Ultimately, the comparison highlights 2 different philosophies. The Queen Elizabeth class provides exceptional value and a potent carrier capability for a medium-sized navy. The Ford class, meanwhile, is built to project sustained global air power, combining larger air wings, specialist aircraft, and worldwide reach on a scale that no other navy can currently replicate. In May 2026, the US Navy's Supercarrier force remains the most powerful carrier fleet ever assembled. The combination of advanced aircraft give each carrier wing a level of capability that no rival navy can fully replicate. Yet that dominance comes with growing challenges. Carrier availability is being squeezed by lengthy refueling overhauls, delayed maintenance programs, and the slow pace of replacing aging ships. At the same time, global commitments continue to expand, placing ever greater demands on a finite number of deployable carriers. The result is a fleet that remains extraordinarily capable, but increasingly stretched. The United States is navigating a difficult transition period, balancing the arrival of new Ford-class carriers against the retirement of the Cold War-era veterans. These veterans have served the Navy far beyond their original design lives. For now, America's carrier force continues to provide a level of global reach and sustain naval air power that no other nation can match. The question is whether the Navy can maintain that advantage as maintenance demands grow and strategic competition intensifies. What do you think? Is the US Navy's biggest challenge today a lack of funding, a lack of shipyard capacity, or simply trying to do too much with too few carriers? Thanks for watching.